At some point today, you're going to feel good. Maybe it's your morning coffee. Maybe it's a laugh with someone you like. Maybe it's just a quiet moment where nothing is wrong.
And you'll enjoy it. And then you'll move on. But here's something nobody tells you. There was one day in your life that was better than every other day. A day where more things went right than they ever have before, or ever will again. A day that if you could rank every single day you've ever lived, would sit at the very top. And statistically, that day is probably already behind you.
Let's start with how happiness actually works, because most people have it completely backwards. We assume happiness is something that builds, that life gets better as we accomplish more, earn more, experience more. We treat joy like a savings account. The longer you contribute, the more you accumulate. But that's not how your brain works. In 1971, two psychologists named Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell introduced a concept called the hedonic treadmill. The idea is simple. Humans have a happiness set point, a baseline emotional temperature we always return to.
Win the lottery? You'll feel incredible for a while, and then you'll go back to normal. Lose your job, lose a relationship, lose someone you love? You'll feel devastated, and then slowly you'll go back to normal. Studies on lottery winners found that within a year, they reported roughly the same levels of happiness as people who had won nothing. Studies on people who became paraplegic after accidents found the same thing going the other direction. Within a year, they rated their daily happiness almost as high as before the accident. Your brain doesn't care about your circumstances. It resets every time. So if happiness doesn't accumulate, if it just keeps snapping back to baseline, then what was the best day of your life actually made of?
Here's what the research says. Psychologists have spent decades trying to understand what makes certain moments feel bigger than others. What makes some days lodge themselves in memory, while entire years dissolve into nothing. And the answer is not what you'd expect. It's not money, it's not achievement, it's not even pleasure. The days that feel the most alive are the ones with the highest density of novelty and connection, new experiences, and the people you shared them with.
Neuroscientist David Eagleman has studied how the brain perceives time, and he found something remarkable. When you're experiencing something new, your brain encodes far more detail. It lays down richer memories. Time actually feels slower. This is why childhood summers felt endless. Everything was new. Every day your brain was working overtime just to process the world. And this is why adult years blur together. Not because less is happening, but because your brain has seen most of it before. It stops paying full attention. It runs on autopilot. The best days of your life are the ones where your brain had to wake up, where it couldn't coast, where something was happening for the first time. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You have fewer and fewer firsts left.
Think about the structure of a human life. Your first decade is almost entirely firsts. First words, first steps, first friend, first heartbreak. First time you understood a joke that went over your head before. First time you felt truly proud of something you made. Your brain is on fire during childhood. Not because you're smarter, because everything is new. Then comes early adulthood, still rich with firsts. First real love, first time living alone, first job, first failure that actually mattered. First moment you realized your parents were just people. And then something shifts. The firsts start slowing down. Not because life gets worse, but because you've already encountered most of the shapes life takes. You know what grief feels like. You know what falling in love feels like. You know what a sunrise looks like, what a good meal tastes like, what it feels like to accomplish something hard. Your brain has the templates. It stops encoding at full resolution. Psychologist Norbert Schwartz found that we don't actually remember our lives in days. We remember them in moments, specific peaks, specific emotional high points, and those peaks cluster early.
There's a phenomenon researchers call the reminiscence bump. If you ask older adults to recall their most vivid memories, the memories that feel the most alive, the ones that shaped who they are, the vast majority of them cluster between ages 15 and 30. Not because those years were objectively better, but because that's when everything was happening for the first time. That's when the brain was fully awake. Which means if you're past 30, your reminiscence bump is already mostly written. The memories that will define your life story are largely already made. And somewhere inside that cluster, buried is the best day of your life. Now, here's what nobody talks about. We spend enormous amounts of energy chasing a future best day. A better job, a bigger house, a relationship that finally works. A version of life where things fall into place. We treat the best day like something that's still coming, like we're building toward it. But the hedonic treadmill says we're not building toward anything. We're just walking. The ground beneath us moves at the same rate we do. We stay in place. And while we're walking, the days that were actually extraordinary slip further and further into the past. We didn't notice them when they happened, because at the time, they felt like just another Tuesday.
Here's a study that changes how you see this. In 2011, psychologists Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert built an app that pinged people at random moments during the day and asked them 2 questions. What are you doing right now? And how happy are you? They collected 650,000 data points from 15,000 people across 83 countries. And the finding was striking. People's minds were wandering 46.9% of the time. Nearly half of all waking hours, people were not thinking about what they were actually doing. They were somewhere else in their heads. And here's the important part. A wandering mind was a less happy mind. Not slightly less happy, significantly less. It didn't matter what activity people were doing. When they were present, they were happier. When they were elsewhere, they were not. Your best day didn't feel like your best day, partly because you weren't fully there for it.
So what do you do with this? Because it would be easy to hear all of this and feel something close to despair. If the best day is behind you, if the firsts are mostly over, if the brain is running on autopilot and the reminiscence bump is already written, what's the point? But I think that's the wrong conclusion. Because here's what this actually tells you. You are living in the reminiscence bump of your future self right now. The person you'll be in 30 years will look back at this exact period of your life the way you now look back at your teenage summers, with a kind of ache, with a wish that they'd paid more attention. Every ordinary Tuesday you're in right now is someone's extraordinary memory waiting to be formed. It's just that you have to be there for it. You have to stop letting the mind wander to the future best day that the hedonic treadmill will quietly take away from you anyway. The peak moments aren't made of extraordinary circumstances. They're made of ordinary circumstances, fully inhabited. The best day of your life might still be ahead of you, but only if you stop waiting for it and start being present enough to recognize it when it's happening. But before we continue, ensure to subscribe. It would really mean a lot. Tonight, you're going to do something ordinary. Eat dinner, watch something, talk to someone. Sit alone with your thoughts, and your brain is going to try to be somewhere else. The question is whether you let it. Because somewhere in the fabric of your ordinary days, there is a moment that will matter more than you know. You just have to be awake enough to live it.